In a culture where society's expectations define us, how can we truly define ourselves? In a society where expectations define us, you must stay true to yourself and know what you stand for. Don't let somebody else's idea of what and who you're supposed to be disrupt who you want to be. You are your own person and should not let somebody else's words decide and define who you are or who you become. You are your own person, one of a kind. Examples of how people have truly defined themselves despite their assumptions from their culture have been seen in various works and people. These examples come from The Color Purple, The Tipping Point, the poem titled Harlem, and Tina Fey. The Color Purple is a novel written by Alice Walker about a girl named Celie, who all her life believes she is inadequate to everyone around her, abused by her stepfather and her husband. She believes she is good for nothing until Shug, her love interest, comes into her life and she finds her voice. On page 77 and 78, Shug and Celie are on the subject of her husband and their relations. Shug says, "Why, Miss Celie," she say, "you still a virgin?" The next page, Celie says, was talking about her body. "It mine, I say." And later on in the book, Celie begins to learn that she shouldn't take the harsh treatment from her husband, and eventually she begins her own business called Folk Pants Unlimited. These examples show how Celie has redefined herself despite what people may say because she has learned to love herself for the qualities she has. The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell focuses more on why it is important to define yourself and be unique, as the book itself is subtitled, How Little Things Make a Big Difference. Gladwell's Law of the Few explains why it is important to be different, summing it up into 3 different groups: connectors, mavens, and salesmen. On page 38, it defines connectors as these people who link us up with the world, who introduce us to our social circles. These people who we rely on more heavily than we realize are connectors, people with a special gift for bringing the world together. On page 60 it says, people who control word-of-mouth epidemics, a maven, coming from the Yiddish word meaning one who accumulates knowledge. On page 70 it says, salesman, with the skills to persuade us when we are unconvinced of what we are hearing. Without these 3 different groups of people, our world would not function the same way as it does now, showing how it is important to be yourself as you are an important part of society. This short poem titled Harlem by Langston Hughes talks about the limitations of the American dream for African Americans, written in the 1930s. The poem reads in the first line, "What happens to a dream deferred?" And the last 3 lines read, "Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode?" During this time, Harlem itself was a cultural center drawing black writers, artists, musicians, photographers, poets, and scholars. During this time, the Harlem Renaissance occurred. This name was given to the cultural, social, and artistic explosion that took place in Harlem between the end of World War I and the middle of the 1930s. This is a prime example of how, despite what people thought about African Americans, they are extremely talented and are no different from you and I. The entire town of Harlem then redefined itself as this cultural spread happened. Everyone did what made them happy, not worrying about what people said they could do, just based on their skin color. The last example is Tina Fey, sponsor of the Empowerment Program to teach girls self-defense, an American actress, comedian, writer, and producer. She is best known for her work on the NBC sketch comedy series Saturday Night Live. Starting out for her wasn't as easy as it seems, though. In 1999, Tina Fey broke into the boys' club by becoming the first female head writer on SNL. When they first casted her, critics made comments about her looks. They were apprehensive of casting her because she didn't have the looks. Despite what critics said, she redefined herself in the way that she wanted to, not what the critics told her or what others told her. She pushed herself and didn't let the intimidation of the writing team of all guys get to her, and has gone very far with her career and is very successful due to this mindset. To recap, whether you are black or white, religious or not, don't let society define you. No matter what anyone else says, the only opinion that matters is your own. Live your life how you want to, not how others want you to.